Well, welcome back to the thought for the day. Some of you probably thought I passed away, but in fact, between COVID and doing Sunday school lessons for two churches, and then taking on a voluntary position as director of missions, or they now call it AIMS, which is Associational Missionary Strategist, for 24 churches in Polk County. I stayed too busy to be able to do the thought for the day each day. That duty is now coming to an end. I'll have a short time of overlap with the new director of missions, or the new AIMS at Polk County in North Carolina. But this will allow me to get back to the thought for the day. A lot has happened, I'm sure, for you and for me during the time that we've been apart. And I can only tell you that many things that have happened have been wonderful. Some of the things that have happened have been tragic. And I continue to stand in awe of a mighty God who can give you a peace and through everything, through the good times and the tough times. So let me bring you up to date. My son continues to be in Tampa, Florida. And he's doing well. His wife has come through a battle with cancer and breast reconstruction, which will not be finished until the beginning of 2023, but everything seems to be going well. I became a great-great-grandfather, and we have a great-great-grandson out in Spokane, Washington. His name is Owen, and he is the joy of my son's life, as well as my grandson, who's the father, and we're thankful for that. I performed a wedding by Zoom, barefooted, but considerably enjoyable time as we saw my grandson Rob, or as most of you know him, Brian, married to Danny. And Danny and Rob have had a child named Owen. Our daughter Dawn continues to teach school. She has moved from Anderson, South Carolina to Simpsonville, and as a matter of fact, she has purchased a place very close to our place in Simpsonville, and we just rejoice in being able to have her and our granddaughters, Olivia and Allie, so much closer to us and so much more available to us. During the time that we've been apart, I have injured my left shoulder. We'll likely have surgery on it in December. It is the rotator cuff, and I understand that it's about a 3-month recovery period from the pain and discomfort and getting back the use of that arm. It's been difficult sleeping with that arm difficulty. I've had some skin cancers removed, and I'm getting older. Lois continues to be in good health, and thankful for her and for her care of myself and our cat Jasmine. And yes, Jasmine is still with us. She is 14 years old and still gives us a great deal of company and comfort. Although she sleeps a lot more than she used to when she was younger, but she is still a joy for us, and I know many of you, even those of our friends in Florida, who get constantly heard about her from the pulpit. So it's been a very interesting time. What is a director of missions, and what does he do? Well, he does plan and try to put into place strategies for the churches in his association. If you're my Florida friends, you have the Tampa Bay Baptist Association. For those of you that are my Landrum friends, you have the Spartanburg or North Spartanburg Association. And for those in Polk County, Tryon, and northward, you have the Polk Baptist Association. And it was my privilege to serve the Polk Baptist Association as director of missions, or as the AIMS, the Associational Missionary Strategist. And that was an extremely interesting time when Lois and I had the opportunity to visit 24 different churches. For those of you in Florida that are in metropolitan areas, as most of you that are my friends are, you would not believe, but a large church in the Polk Baptist Association is one that runs 150 to 200 members. Not the mega churches that we have in Florida with thousands of members. Here, the church that I pastored at Southside Baptist Church could be considered a monster church as compared to what we have in Polk Association. As Lois and I visited these churches after COVID and during their rebuilding time, many of them were running just 10 to 12 members, some running as high as 100 to 150 members. But these are good people. These are people that more than 50% of the people in the churches of Polk County were born and raised here in Polk County, North Carolina. And they're good, wholesome people that love the Lord and want to serve Him. We've been rejoicing with those 24 churches as they continue to try to reach the community which they've been placed in. And we're thankful for the opportunity to try to help them strengthen and rebuild churches after COVID. The interesting thing that I see in both South Carolina, North Carolina, and in Florida is that churches are back to about 80% of what they were before COVID, but unfortunately only about 50% back in Sunday school. Now that's tragic to me because, you see, I believe that the church's purpose is not only to reach the lost, but it's also to strengthen the saints and to encourage them in Bible study and to continue to learn more about Jesus and His teachings. That means that 50% of those that before COVID were learning about the Bible are not learning about the Bible now after COVID. And so one of the major tasks that I see before the churches across the country, but particularly here in Polk County, is to rebuild the Bible study areas of the church so that the church can grow not only numerically, but more importantly, that they grow spiritually in the knowledge and love of the Lord Jesus Christ. We are living in the end times. A few minutes ago, my wife told me that there's a report that California has just made it legal to kill children after they're born, and that the motivation seems to be for the harvesting of parts that can be put into other children. That is a sad scenario when we take life so lightly that we would terminate the life of a young newborn child. Nevertheless, we are living in the end times, and the answer is not Democratic or Republican. The answer is not the Green Party. I believe that most of what we're seeing in the world climate change is not caused by man. I believe there is certainly a major contribution by man, but I believe that the earth is going through the stage and through the changes that God is allowing to take place through natural causes, and that all that we read in the book of Revelation is going to come to pass. And certainly what we read in the Bible about the end times and the kind of people that will be around in the end times, as covered in 2 Timothy, is already upon us, and we are living in the end days. Now, I don't know how many days those are. I don't know if it's my generation, the next generation, the third generation, but it can't be far away. And that means that we need to get serious about telling others that there will be a great separation. As a matter of fact, I was just reading in the scriptures again in chapter 13 of Matthew, and looking at the great separation that would occur in the end times, the separation of the tares and the wheat, the separation that is coming, that without a doubt is not far away, and we need to be ready. We need to be sure that we have the right relationship with God. We need to be sure that we are telling and warning others about the end times, and we need to get busy about God's work. So I look forward to starting Monday, coming back to you daily, 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, with a thought for the day. I hope that you'll pray for me and for my family, as I will be praying for you and your families. Drop me a note from time to time. I still stay in touch with many of my friends in Florida and many of those in South Carolina, as well as friends that we have established here in North Carolina, and look forward to hearing from you. Tell me what you'd like to hear about. Tell me what sections of the scriptures you'd like some insight into, or tell me what areas you're struggling in so that I can dedicate my devotions to the needs that you may have in your life. Again, we'll try to keep these typically around 5 minutes, and so that you can start your day with them or close out your day with them. You should be able to see in the bottom right-hand corner the little head of Jasmine, our cat, who is trying to get through that door that I shut behind me. So Jasmine is right there, and she continues to be a great friend. You have a blessed day. We've been through the peak of the beauty of the leaves up here in North Carolina. Today it's rainy and very windy, and there's going to be a lot of blowing of leaves and raking of leaves in the days ahead before we winterize our place here in Tryon and retreat to our place in Simpsonville, where we don't have to deal with so much snow and ice. So God bless you and have a great weekend. I pray that you'll go to church, and more than that, I hope that you will be a part of your church's Bible study. God bless you and have a great day.
We live in a broken world, surrounded by broken lives, broken relationships, and broken systems. This brokenness is seen in suffering, violence, poverty, pain, and death around us. Brokenness leads us to search for a way to make life work. In contrast to this brokenness, we also see beauty, purpose, and evidence of design around us. The Bible tells us that God originally planned a world that worked perfectly, where everything and everyone fit together in harmony. God made each of us with a purpose, to worship Him and walk with Him. Life doesn't work when we ignore God and His original design for our lives. We selfishly insist on doing things our own way. The Bible calls this sin. We all sin and distort the original design. The consequence of our sin is separation from God, in this life and for all of eternity. Sin leads to a place of brokenness. We see this all around us and in our own lives as well. When we realize life is not working, we begin to look for a way out. We tend to go in many directions, trying different things to figure it out on our own. Brokenness leads to a place of realizing a need for something greater. At this point, we need a remedy, some good news. Because of His love, God did not leave us in our brokenness. Jesus, God in human flesh, came to us and lived perfectly according to God's design. Jesus came to rescue us, to do for us what we could not do for ourselves. He took our sin and shame to the cross, paying the penalty of our sin by His death. Jesus was then raised from the dead to provide the only way for us to be rescued and restored to a relationship with God. This is the good news. This is the gospel. Simply hearing this good news is not enough. We must admit our sinful brokenness and stop trusting in ourselves. We don't have the power to escape this brokenness on our own. We need to be rescued. We must ask God to forgive us, turning from sin to trust only in Jesus. This is what it means to repent and believe. Believing, we receive new life through Jesus, and God turns our lives in a new direction. When God restores our relationship to Him, we begin to discover meaning and purpose in a broken world. Now we can pursue God's design in all areas of our lives. Even when we fail, we understand God's pathway to be restored, this same good news of Jesus. God's Spirit empowers us to recover His design and assures us of His presence in this life and for all of eternity.